Hi, I'm Michelle from the Cablecast team at Tyro Media Systems, and this is our PEG Experts Forum webinar series. In this episode, we're going to talk to Burbio. They are specializing in local events feeds. They do all the work for you. It's a really great service for those of you who are already trying to bring information about local events to your community. So we hope you'll enjoy this previously recorded webinar. And do remember you can subscribe to these webinars in the link in the description to this video. And that way you can find out how to join us live for future events. So here we go.
So we met Burbio at a conference and thought that they were a natural fit for PEG channels. As local media is disappearing, communities are increasingly turning to PEG channels as a vital source of community information and events, and that is exactly what Burbio does, so it seems like a natural fit. The other thing is, as Dennis and Julie will get into, Burbio works with iCal feeds, and iCal feeds are consumed by Carousel and Cablecast CG, and so therefore can be displayed on air, as well as other ways that they will get into. So that's it for a brief introduction. Right now, I'll just hand it over to Dennis and Julie.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. This is Dennis Roach here, and Julie, who will talk in a moment. Yes, we are married. We're parents of 4 children. Burbio has been around for almost 5 years, and we started the business because, well, as parents, we couldn't figure out what was going on in our little town of 12,000 people without it feeling a lot like 1998. We knew what we wanted to find out. We knew about the schools and the libraries and the arts groups and the government meetings. We knew, but we had to go to like 10 or 12 different websites to keep track of everything, and it was very, very manual. And so we built this business, which is a service that works very closely with media companies. It's very affordable, as we'll talk about at the end. It's fully automated. We do all the work. We also work with big partners. Microsoft is a partner. We work with broadcasters across the country, work with big real estate firms, all to say that our technology is very good, but we were really born from the goal of local residents trying to find out what was going on in their community. We were excited to be able to speak today. The problem, which we'll describe, is that community event information, and again, we mean school, library, government information, it's an important source of news and engagement, particularly for community television stations. But there's no easy way to compile the information. It's all in different places, and it's actually becoming more fragmented. Every PTA now needs their own app, which bombards you with text messages. Everybody has an email. A lot of times the organizers really don't have the problem that the people being organized do. They just blast out more information, and then, God bless them, they think they're solving it, but they're making it harder. And it's lots of work, and it's very, very hard to be comprehensive. Let's say you're a media company, and we have been on literally hundreds, probably in the low thousands of media sites. Let's say you're trying to compile local community information to present on your media service. First of all, it's time consuming. There's no way to get around it. There's a lot of typing. Second of all, it's incomplete. You're never going to have access. You're probably never going to have access to every school or library event because you're not going to want to type that in. And then if you have things like a self-serve platform, some of these groups and organizations, for example, the government, will very rarely enter anything in. And then, of course, you have the occasional, every town has their organizer who makes sure to put every single event in, so it looks a little choppy. So it's very, very hard. And it's also very hard to implement. Let's say you've done a decent job and you have some community events. It's often hard to be able to get on your screen, on web, on mobile. And there's a reason for this, and we'll just stop on this for a second. This whole talk will take about 8 to 10 minutes. There's a reason why this happens. The standards, there's a reason why no one has solved this problem to date. The standards for what are called calendar feeds, and that's where Burbio gets our data, have only recently begun to be adopted by the companies that make the websites for the local organizations. Some of them still don't work very well, so we have to clean them up. And some of them still don't have them at all, and in Burbio's case, we built what we call data parsers to bring it in. So it's very, very fragmented. Another reason why it's never been solved is, honestly, unlike ticketed sales, there's lots of companies out there that will serve you movie tickets, concert tickets, comedy tickets, fundraising tickets like Eventbrite. They're all nice services, but they don't really serve comprehensive community information at all because in that case, they're selling tickets. So there's sort of money in the ecosystem, if you will, to make a business out of it. whereas serving local community information for nonprofits and things like that, where no one's selling tickets, has never really been a business model. So Burbio built our solution for residents. We built the technology in a way that allows us to bring it in automatically. And I'm going to kick it over to Julie now, who runs our technology, and talk about our service.
Yes. So Burbio brings, as we said, in all this information. It brings it in dynamically by each local group. And it's really deep information. So again, it's all the information in your station's coverage area that residents are interested in getting. And we bring it in so that it can be displayed on screen, as well as on mobile, and even social. Our service, really, we like to think of it as something like AccuWeather or Bloomberg for community events. So just the way those AccuWeather and Bloomberg have their information on their own websites and on their own apps, really the place you see it more often is on third-party sites that again, have a reason to display that information because they've got users who are interested in it. So that is essentially what we do. And as Dennis mentioned, we use iCal feeds. The platforms that typically have the calendar data for a community, it's the schools and the libraries and the governments, but they use software platforms that have a calendar component. And we have either figured out how to pull the iCal feeds, or we've created custom data parsers, or we've done a direct integration with those companies so that we can pull in that information and keep it live and up to date all the time. So if the concert in the park changes and it gets updated on the government calendar with the new rain date, that information automatically gets pulled into Burbio as well. The types of data that we have in terms of the level of detail is, as we said, very deep. So you can see within the governments, we'll have everything from the town meetings to parks and recreation events to the special events, senior events, community center events, causes and volunteering groups. You can see all kinds of the, kind of special nonprofits in, specific to your community, as well as chapters of larger organizations like the United Way or Relay for Life or something like that. We've got local arts and recreation activities from places like YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs, local community theaters, and the list goes on.
So what we do is we build out communities, and we've done this in over 1,000 communities, and we're going across the country now. We build out all the content for a community, and as Steve alluded to earlier, we'll talk about some of the ways we serve the information to you. This is an example of a multi-zone implementation on Cablecast CG. We would provide you an iCal feed, which would provide the events from your community. This is a sample. When we work with local stations, we work with them to see what kind of information they want. An example might be, most of our media partners don't want the elementary school events because it's a little too local. They would all want the school district events, which shows when the holidays are and when some of the big events are at the school. But we work with them as far as what they do, and we can stream the events, and it's very, very dense. In a typical town of, say, 10 to 20,000 people, even something that small, will have 30 to 50 organizations. This is an example of a single zone implementation of the information running on the Cablecast system. The information that we provide you can also be used for web. We know that some of you may be using Cablecast systems for live stream and OTT. It'll all work there. This is an example. If you have a website, a standalone website, a WordPress website, whatever, we can give you a community calendar that will live on the site and be dynamically updated by the same information that's driving everything else. And you would have something for the community. You'll see that what happens is we also have the ability for groups and organizations to put their own information up if we can't get the local information from calendar feeds. We'll talk about that in a moment. The information can be shared on social media and also in emails. It's also something that can be interesting to monetize because it is so local and it's so thorough. We do find that sponsors, whether it's a local bank or a local real estate agent who likes to associate themselves with the community, does want to be a part of this information as well. And so depending on how you package sponsorships, it can be something that is really quite effective. So what we do when we go into a community, what we do is we do a short kickoff call with our potential partner and talk to them about the groups and organizations that are in their community. We're very good at proactively identifying a lot of stuff, a lot of the typical stuff, schools, government, library, big community groups. In addition to websites, we'll pull Facebook events, we pull Google feeds. There's lots of ways we find the information. We will build the information out for our partner, combine it in a way that can be delivered on screen. For groups and organizations that don't have calendar feeds, some of you may be out there thinking about the Knights of Columbus that has the twice events a year, and they're not particularly good at putting anything anywhere. We can get the information up. They can go into Burbio's system very simply and enter the information, and it will appear. I want to go back for a moment and just note that Burbio's branding is not here. This is about your brand and your station. The only place, and you'll see it here, there's a little bit here, there's a little icon here. The only place it ever really comes up is when somewhere in your ecosystem you will have submit here if you want to get on the community calendar. And if there's groups and organizations that once it's live will want to go up and we haven't been in touch with them yet, or we've reached out to them and they're interested, Burbio will handle all of the customer service to get them into the system. If that group and organization already has a Facebook group, we'll work to get that information via Facebook. Our whole idea is to take whatever the group and organization is already doing and getting it into the system. So in terms of how it works, we do a short intro call with stations to identify the content. We aggregate the data. We give you the information to go live, and then we'll do community outreach white labeled for you. Community outreach will typically be to two different types of groups. We'll reach out to the groups that are on your system to announce that they're there and that whatever they're doing, they should keep doing. And then we'll also reach out to some groups that maybe we couldn't find digital assets for, inviting them to become a part of the initiative. We build out the data very, very quickly. It takes typically 72 hours or less to build out a town of 20 to 30,000 people. It actually doesn't take very long at all. The 72 hours just is sort of fully loaded from the first call to us delivering something to you. And then on an ongoing basis, if any of your partners have questions, we handle that. A couple different types of questions that we often get. How do you make sure the information isn't objectionable and that it looks right? So every time a new group goes onto Burbio, we see it. And when I say Burbio, it's going onto your system. We see it, we screen it, we make sure it's the type of group and organization that you would like. Truth is, we have tens of thousands of groups. We see very little to no objectionable content. To make some of you laugh out there who may have tried this, what we see is that when we have a problem, it can be recurring events. Someone will come from a local yoga, a YMCA, and has yoga class every morning at 7 a.m. for the next, 17 years, and they'll want to put it on the community calendar. So we'll do some filtering for those sorts of stuff, that sorts of things, to make sure that the community calendar is not dominated by the same daily event over and over again. If there's a business that's having a fundraiser that's really a business event, we typically don't book business events. If a partner wants it, we will put it up. But typically this is for nonprofits and community events and organizations. I'll finish also by saying that this is something that mayors, elected officials, library directors, they love this service because it doesn't exist in a very thorough format. So this is really the kind of information that you're going to find civic leaders really embrace, and many of you probably recognize that. A lot of people end up going to Facebook to find out what's going on. Facebook has its own sets of issues because it creates conversation that can sort of a double-edged sword for public officials, and it's incomplete and sometimes actually not really accurate. So this gives you the opportunity to be the true source of local information in your community like nothing else that's out there. In terms of costs, the program typically costs between $50 and $100 a month. That's it, depending on community size. Our smaller communities are $50, and after the first few months, it becomes a month-to-month program, so there's no long-term commitment. And as I said, we do all the work. If interested in the program, you can shoot me an email directly. We do a 10 or 15-minute demo where we'll drill down on your community, answer questions, and talk about whether this is the right program for you.
Again, thanks for tuning in to this episode of our PEG Experts Forum. Don't forget you can subscribe to future PEG Experts Forum announcements, join our live webinars and workshops, as well as get notifications when we put up new blog posts from the community. Thanks again.